Boston.
Here.
Alderman Anderson.
Here.
Sir, 7 Alderman, you have the floor.
Thank you. Next order of business is the approval of minutes. The first are the regular minutes of the April 28, 2015 meeting. Do we have any comments from the board? Alderman Maybe?
The only comment I saw was on page 9, where there's a reference to Economic Development Committee. I believe that should be Economic Development Commission. Also on page 9, where it says Planning and Zoning Board, I should say Planning and Zoning Commission. Otherwise, everything looked to be in order.
Okay. Make that change. Any other comments from the board? I see none. Okay, do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Have a motion from Alderman Stutter. Have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Alderman Charbonneau. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Next order of business is the approval of the meeting minutes for the special meeting, closed meeting on May 5th of 2015. Any questions from the board? I see none. We have a motion for approval. Have a motion from Alderman Boston and a second from Alderman Wallach. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Thank you. Next item is public hearings. We have none this evening. Next item is reports, presentations, communications, and appointments. The first order of business is the oath of office for a new firefighter, Nicholas Hill. Mr. Hill here. Okay, step forward. City clerk will provide you with your oath of office.
So raise your right hand, sir. I, Nicholas Hill,
I, Nicholas Hill,
do hereby declare
do hereby declare
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
and the Charter of the City of Crestwood.
and the Charter of the City of Crestwood.
I swear I will protect, safeguard, and preserve life, health, and property against fire and other perils,
I swear I will protect, safeguard, and preserve life, health, and property against fire and other perils.
I will uphold the standards of my profession,
I will uphold the standards of my profession,
continually striving to achieve the objectives and ideals the fire service instills.
continually striving to achieve the objectives and ideals the fire service instills.
I will never allow my personal feelings nor danger to self to deter me from my responsibilities as a first responder and guardian of the community.
I will never allow my personal feelings nor danger to self deter me from my responsibilities as a first responder and guardian of the community.
I will at all times respect the property and rights of all.
I will at all times respect the property and rights of all.
I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith and trust.
I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith and trust,
And I will remain true to the ethics of the fire service.
and I will remain true to the ethics of the fire service.
As a member of the Crestwood Fire Department,
As a member of the Crestwood Fire Department,
I accept the self-imposed and self-enforced obligation as my responsibility
I accept the self-imposed and self-enforced obligation of my responsibility
and make these promises so solemnly, freely, and upon my honor.
and make these promises so solemnly, freely, and upon my honor.
Congratulations.
Firefighter Hill is at.
I know you've been on the job already for a few days. Hope that you enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Next order of business is a resolution for the retirement of firefighter Jeff Schwerin. Jeff, would you like to stand, please? Chief?
Chief?
Anyone would like to take photos, please feel free to do so.
Resolution number 5-05. Whereas Captain Jeffrey Schwerin has served the City of Crestwood Department of Fire Services for the past 25 years, and whereas during his years of service, he was instrumental in achieving many of the department's goals by serving in the capacity of firefighter, paramedic, lieutenant, and captain. Whereas Jess served as co-coordinator for the Fire Explorer Scout Program, he demonstrated his dedication to duty by educating and training our community's youth to respond to the citizens of Crestwood and providing for their public safety and welfare. And whereas his invaluable experience and assistance to the City of Crestwood Department of Fire Services in providing the protection of life and property to its citizens should be noted and remembered. And whereas the city will suffer the loss of his experience, it is the desire of the mayor and board of aldermen to wish for him and his family a long and happy retirement. Now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and board of aldermen of the city of Crestwood, Missouri, that we hereby express our sincere appreciation to Captain Jeff Schwerin.
And I'll ask the board for a motion and approval for this resolution.
So moved.
We have a motion to second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Thank you, Jeff, very much for your service to the city, and we hope that you enjoy a long and healthy retirement. Thank you.
Send you some pictures from Florida, Mayor.
Okay, let's love to see those. Okay, the next item of business is a proclamation for EMS Week. Proclamation number 1501. Whereas emergency medical services are a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas the Crestwood Department of Fire Services responds to over 900 medical calls per year, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and accomplishments of emergency medical services providers, and whereas this year's theme, EMS Strong, reflects the members of Crestwood Department of Fire Services' true calling and commitment to help our residents, business community, and visitors in their hour of need. Now therefore, I, Greg Roby, Mayor of the City of Crestwood, and the Board of Aldermen do hereby proclaim the week of May 17th to May 23rd of 2015 as Emergency Medical Services Week, dated this 12th day of May 2015. Do I have a motion and a second for approval?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed, say nay.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item of business is a proclamation for National Police Week. This will be proclamation number 1502. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which May 15 falls as National Police Week. And whereas the members of the Law Enforcement Agency of Crestwood, Missouri play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of Crestwood, Missouri, and whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of the law enforcement agency of Crestwood unceasingly provide a vital public service. And now therefore, I, Greg Roby, Mayor of Crestwood, the City of Crestwood, and the Board of Aldermen, call upon all citizens of Crestwood and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 10th through May 16th, 2015 as Police Week, with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which all of our people may join in commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in so doing have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. And whereas I further call upon all citizens of Crestwood to observe May 15, 2015 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty. And let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. Now therefore, I, Greg Roby, Mayor of the City of Crestwood, and the Board of Aldermen, do recognize the week of May 10, 2015 through May 16, 2015 as Police Week and Peace Officers Memorial Day, and further extend appreciation to all peace officers for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. Proclaim this 12th day of May 2015. Do we have a motion for approval? Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. I would like to say, before I go on to the next item, that on our website recently we put a great memorial to peace officers throughout the country. It's a video, and I would encourage everyone to take a look at that. It's really a great piece, and it sends a message that these people are human just like all of us, but they do extend their lives in every situation to the ultimate. So we'd like to honor them and thank them very much. Next item on the agenda is the proclamation for Public Works Week. Richard, do Public Works. Would you read that, please?
15, this is proclamation number 1503. Whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, sewer, streets and highways, public buildings, and solid waste collection, and whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services, and whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the dedicated efforts and skill of public work professionals, and whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now, therefore, Greg Roby, Mayor of Crestwood, and the Board of Aldermen do hereby proclaim the week of May 17th through the 23rd, 2015 as Public Works Week in the City of Crestwood, and call upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and to recognize the contributions which public works officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Dated this 12th day of May 2015. Thank you.
May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, Alderman Statter, and a second from Alderman Waller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay, please. Passes. Okay, the next item of business is reappointments to various city boards, commissions, and committees. We have a number of expired terms, which we are going to refill here tonight. And if it pleases the board, I'd like to do these as a group rather than individually, although I will mention them individually in the specific board which I'm appointing them to. First individual is Greg Palicek with the Sign Commission, Ken Lang, Planning and Zoning Commission, Sonny Brockman, Economic Development Commission, Bob Parsons, Board of Adjustment, and Greg Hall, Economic Development Commission. Do I have a motion for approval of these appointments? I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Thank you. Next item of business is appointments to various city boards, commissions, and committees. These will be new appointments. These were vacancies created by several of our former commissioners now being aldermen. So the first individual I have is Matt Callahan. Is Matt here this evening?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Matt, would you like to step forward and maybe give us a little bit of background on yourself? Matt is going to be assigned to the police board. He will replace Justin Charter.
I'm from 8814 Sturdy.
Thank you.
That's the street that my wife grew up on. I've been there 2.5 years, and I'm just pleased to be able to serve the city. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate your volunteering to do that, Matt. Any questions from the board? Okay, I see none. Do I have a motion for approval? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion from Alderman Wallach and a second from Alderman Charter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay, next appointment will be Matthew Stevens. Matthew will replace Alderman Mabee on the Economic Development Council. Is Mr. Stevens here tonight? Okay, guess not. Any questions from the board? Mr. Stevens is a representative in real estate business. He currently works for a large corporation called CBR&E, Fortune 500 real estate company, and he's does work with valuation, property, and advisory services for that company. So, see no questions from the board. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
I have a motion from Alderman Boston and a second from Alderman Eddy. Okay, Alderman Mabee second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Thank you. Next item of business is city sidewalk slab replacement policy. Mr. Gillen, would you like to report on that, please?
At the request of the Board of Aldermen, I've looked into the maintenance of the sidewalks for the city of Crestwood. And in 1965, the ordinance was that the sidewalks, curbs, gutters, and driveways were the maintenance of the property owner. And then in 1995, there was a policy put together that the city would maintain the sidewalks within the city of Crestwood. That policy was followed until 2013, when the when the Director of Public Services at that time decided that there were no longer monies or manpower available to do that work, and that work was discontinued. The discussion for tonight is whether we are going to continue to have the residents take care of the sidewalks, or whether the city is going to again take over the maintenance and repair of those sidewalks. We currently have 48 lineal miles of sidewalks in Crestwood, and that is just over 1 million square feet. Based on the last time that we did a condition survey of the sidewalks, and based on the costs, at this time it would cost the city between $68 or $60,000 to do those repairs, whether it's done in-house or by contract.
Anyone on the board have any comments regarding this issue? Alderman Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Gillen. Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Gillen, when we see an estimate of cost for repairs and replacement, looks like $61,190 is the estimate if we contract it out, $68,325.90 for in-house personnel. Is that meant to imply that that's $68,000 additional dollars beyond the cost that we are currently paying for those in-house personnel, or simply that is the amount of man-hours it would take them to do the work?
That includes the man-hours to do the work, which is just under 1,000 man-hours, and that includes the cost for the equipment and the cost for the material that would be required to do that work.
Okay. And has there been any thought given to not going all or nothing, all in-house or all contract, and any thoughts of how it might be possible to split that up into some of it in-house and contract out, say, the most severe?
Yes, there's some things that the city personnel can do more efficiently and more cost-effective. Typically, the repair work we can do in-house at a lower cost. The replacement work, it can be done just a little bit less by contract.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Waller.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. Jim, just for clarity, again, within the 1965, the code was that the responsibility rests with the homeowners or the property owners. In 1995, you indicated that the Board of Aldermen passed a sidewalk replacement policy. My question, though, is that within the code, does the code reflect the sidewalk replacement policies in effect?
The current code does not reflect the sidewalk policy that's in place at this time.
All right. So would it be proper then for this board to consider ordinances in the future as it relates to the sidewalk replacement policy, whether we want to implement this code for the city? Because at this point, it looks like the Board of Aldermen made a choice back in 1995. However, since it was not within the code, I guess I'm kind of confused how the board can distinguish something when it's not within the code that we have. If I'm understanding.
That's correct. At some point in time, both the policy and the ordinance will need to state the same facts and the same procedure, whereas they do not at this time.
Okay. No, again, I think I touched about this maybe during our budget time. I thought, as a resident, I thought sidewalks was the responsibility of the city. But I did some exploring, some of the cities out there say no, it's really the property owner's responsibility on that. But I think it's something that this board needs to look into, whether they want to rest this responsibility on the residents or rest this responsibility on the city. There are some concerns if we rest it on the city. There might be some liability issues that I want to talk to our city attorney about in regards to those maintenance issues. But again, I thank you for bringing this forward to us tonight. But I'm more in mind to kind of make future discussion points in regards to the ordinance to make sure it complies with that if we want to amend the codes in the future. So the responsibility of the sidewalk rests with the city versus where it stands now, the property owner or the resident. So, thank you.
Alderman Maybe.
Yes, do appreciate the information provided. It was very enlightening, and going back to the history and the memorandum back from February 27th of 2006, and I agree with Alderman Wallach that we'll likely to take a look at the ordinances, and I would think as far as the money that you indicate would be necessary for repair or replacement of the sidewalks, that's going to be something that the Ways and Means Committee will need to look at and see if those funds are available if and when the board adopts some ordinances to re-adopt some of these policies. But My question was with respect to the classification of low priority repairs, medium priority repairs, high priority repairs, and then replacements. If you could just give a broad overview, the state of the city sidewalks and the portions that fall within each of those categories.
The severity of the repairs are based on the defects involved with the sidewalks. The higher priorities are where there is a difference in elevation between the slabs of more than 2 inches for high priority. For medium priority, it's between 1 and 2 inches, and low priority is between 3/4 and 1 inch.
And that $68,000 number, does that include low, medium, and high repairs, or is that just the high attention repairs?
Those are the medium and high repairs, and they also include all of the replacements.
Thank you.
Alderman Anderson?
I think you answered the question that I had in terms of the categorization, but on the bar chart that for the sidewalk survey of 2012, there's a column there that's, I don't know what color to describe it, sort of magenta, but it says fixed. Is that to indicate that those sidewalks were repaired at that time?
That's correct. There was some work done at that time.
And and the yellow would be those that would be slated for repair because they needed it at this point, or they needed it in 2012?
That is correct.
So are all of these, the streets that are on the bar chart, are they included in the sum for the repairs and replacements indicated?
All of the streets that are included in the sidewalk survey from 2012 are included in the estimate.
Are there any new ones that are included, or just the 2012 survey?
That is only through 2012. We would have to resurvey and make another condition assessment of the sidewalks as they exist today.
Thank you.
I think the appropriate comments here would be, this was a presentation by you, not something that the board was going to act on tonight. It'll take further discussion by the board, but we can certainly, I think, put this matrix online under Public Works so that residents of the city can see, where the sidewalks are that we have indicated are of concern to us.
Correct. This was just an open discussion.
Okay. All right. With that in mind, I think it's probably best left public comment unless someone has a specific comment they want to make about it. We can take that now, sir. Go ahead.
My question, I should have had a word for that. I hate to throw in cold water on this, but I'm going back over 18 years ago. Northwest Raycrest. They tore out a good concrete street. You know what the city engineer told me? I had to have something for the men to do, and we got streets were suffering. There was no cooperation down there, no engineering, nobody protected those fellows. They had to come back and go back 18 inches for each expansion joint because all they did was pour the concrete, they would work it, everyone called it for engineering. It was a disaster. Yet, I won't mention his name, but it was long gone. I said, why did you do that? I had to have something for men to do. Gentlemen, I'm not lying to you. So I hope that when you do this job, you're going to have somebody there who's going to do the job right, and don't bother to come back and do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deutsch. Anyone else care to talk about the sidewalks? See no further hands? Okay, the next item of business is the presentation for the White Cliff Amphitheater by Planning Design Studios. Representative here from, yes, sir. Here to step to the podium, please. And if you could state your names for the record, we appreciate that.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. My name is Dan Bacher, and I'm a principal with the firm called Planning Design Studio. With me this evening is Scott Calvert, who's retrieving a microphone right now, and he'll be using that to present our findings to you for the master plan. We have taken the liberty of passing out an agenda of our presentation, and on the back side of that presentation agenda is a space for comments for anybody in the audience or board members who have a comment about our presentation. We would love to hear from you. Also, there is information on the agenda of who to contact and who to get a hold of if you have any questions or further comments. So that's a piece of paper. If there's anyone in the audience that does not have one, I still have a few copies left over that I'll pass out after our presentation. I'd like to thank Todd. Excuse me, Todd, I forgot your last name. Todd and Jim for their help in the preparation of the master plan. They offered us a lot of good insight and helped us with the development of the overall plan. With that, I'm going to ask I'm going to ask Scott to make a presentation of the findings of our master plan. We hope that there will be an opportunity for answering questions at the conclusion of that presentation.
Okay, thank you, Dan. So before we get into the actual design of the master plan, I want to present to you the process that we went through to get to that final master plan design. And it began in December of 2014 when we began working and coordinating with the city staff for this process. There was a series of 8 different coordination meetings that we had with city staff, with other interested parties, with community members and residents. It all kind of culminates to this, what we're calling the second community meeting, the Board of Aldermen presentation today. The purpose of all of these meetings was, again, just to gather input and information from city staff and from community that would direct our thoughts and decisions that we would make in the design process. So one of the critical meetings that we had was the first community meeting, which occurred on March 9th of this year at the Crescent Community Center. The purpose of this meeting was to both inform the public on this process of designing this amphitheater, and also to gather input from them on what they would like to see as a finished product. As part of this presentation, we presented to them the selected site for the amphitheater, and for those of you who are familiar with White Cliff Park, this is the aquatic center. The tennis courts are down here. The amphitheater site is here in an open grassy area, southwest corner of the site. The park entrance is up here. Walk lane is down there. Now, this site was selected after an extensive research and evaluation process of a multitude of different site factors, which you can see there. I'm not going to go through them in detail. But we did go through a process of evaluating different areas within White Cliff Park and found this site to be the most suitable and appropriate for an amphitheater. We presented this to those in attendance at the meeting, and with this background, we opened it up into discussion. Now, there were 28 participants who attended this community meeting. We broke them up into 5 different groups, and had a tabletop discussion with each different groups. They followed questions that we prompted them, and had this discussion. They presented their ideas, and in the end there was approximately 75 comments, ideas, and suggestions that were made at the end, which were all very important to us in helping us make these decisions in the design of the amphitheater. At the end of this, the participants were given 4 green dots, green stickers, that they then used to place upon the ideas that they thought were the most important and the most valuable. And in the end, we had 112 green dots on the 5 presentation boards. The questions that they were asked to consider were, what would you like about the ideas of an amphitheater, Whitecliff Park? What do you dislike about the idea? What types of events would you expect to see there? What type of events would you like to attend? What are the features you would like to see incorporated? And what's the most important aspect of the amphitheater project? I know this is hard to read. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but these were the questions and the answers from the 5 different groups who were there at the meeting. They presented these ideas. There was a lot of great discussion, we felt. There was a lot of good comments and very good ideas that were written down and presented. In the end, after the presentations were made and everyone had a vote, we went through and evaluated all of the votes. The topic that received the most votes was what are the features that you would like to see incorporated in the amphitheater, and also what are the different events that you would like to have. And from this, we were able to gather a good idea about what the community wanted from this amphitheater, and we were able to develop from that a program of different activities and events that could occur. So this was a very useful and important part of the process. This is a diagram that just illustrates the process that we went through, from city input, defining goals, site analysis, community input, reviewing preliminary plans, and then the final ultimate deliverable of this is the creation of this master plan, which could then be used at a later date to develop a final plan and then go into construction. So I want to talk a little bit about the design now, but before we get into the details of the design, there are a few different existing site features and factors that we had to consider when we were developing this plan. Some of the key things that we needed to look at was, of course, the topography of the site. We felt that this site, as it is sloping from high here to low down here, would be well suited for an amphitheater. We wanted to keep and connect to the existing parking on either side. We wanted to, again, preserve the existing wooded area and all the existing mature trees there. And then there's an existing restroom here that we wanted to incorporate into the design of the amphitheater. So this is, I will present 2 different plans. So we'll start with the ultimate development plan. So this is the amphitheater as it would be in the final build out when everything is said and done. So again, you can see the existing parking areas are here, the existing wooded area is here, and the main pieces and parts that I'll talk about in detail are the stage, which would be located here. There is an entry plaza with a few features here, including the existing restroom building. Access, pedestrian access to the site from the parking lots would occur through these series of walkways. Maintenance access to the stage front and backstage building area would occur through a service drive here. And then seating, of course, would be here. So let me talk about some of these components in detail a little bit. First of all, the stage. Again, the stage would be here. I know this is kind of hard to see, but this white dashed line here represents what would be the actual stage area. Now we're talking about an elevated stage about 2.5 feet above the surrounding plaza area that would occur around the stage. Access to the top of the stage would be through 2 ramps on either side. This stage would be covered, so there'd be some kind of roof structure, open pavilion type structure to the stage. Backstage building would be here. Now the backstage building would house changing rooms for performers, restrooms for the performers also, staging areas. There will be, and all of this will be at the same level and be able to access to the performance area from the stage here. So they'd be at the same level. Now beneath that, in this area, there would be a second-story storage area that would be accessed through an overhead door on this side, on maintenance vehicle. So that would be the stage area. The entry plaza area, again here we would use the existing restroom as it is. Surrounding this restroom, we would put in a paved plaza, entry plaza area, with a kind of overhead gateway structure adjacent to the restrooms and a new concessions building, which would be right here. This would represent a kind of an overlook area. Again, this is, I'll show in a second, a section that will illustrate this a little bit better. But this is an area that's elevated above the rest of the amphitheater that could be used for pedestrians to come through, kind of get their bearings, find out where they're going to sit. And then access to the different parts of the amphitheater would be done through a series of steps and landings, coming down this way or here. Accessible access would occur through a ramp that would come above from this plaza area down to this series of walkways here. And again, these would all be accessible walkways that would come down here, and again, loop about, come around into the stage front. And then access could also, another accessible route would be from the parking lot up here down to the service drive and into the front of the stage area here. So, and the other part of it is seating. So seating would happen through a series of low seat walls, again 18 inches high, that would ascend from the stage area up this way. So you have seat walls. In between the seat walls would be a lawn, a level area lawn for seating, again for blankets or toilet seats, things like that. These paved areas in the middle and up top here could be used for wheelchair seating. There's enough space for a wheelchair or even other portable seating to happen at the back and still have enough access in front for circulation. So the accessible seating areas would be here in the back, in the middle, and at the stage front plaza also. The other thing is the sound booth would be included also in this design for productions. So if you can see this section that's cut right through the middle here, shows the difference in elevations that would be throughout this, or through this, the upper plaza area with the concessions building, the terrace seating coming down into the stage front plaza, and then the stage and then the backstage building here. So you can see I think there's about 20 feet of grade elevation from the top of the plaza down to the stage front area. This amphitheater really is, I'm going to try to give you a sense of scale. It's going to be a small amphitheater. This walk here is about 10 foot wide. So if you think from the front of this plaza overlook down to the stage front, you're only talking about 100 feet. So it's a small amphitheater. It's going to feel really close. It's going to feel intimate, which I think is good. And also, we think there's a lot of flexibility and a variety of different activities that could happen in such a close area, for example. The stage area, we feel like there's enough space in the front of this stage area where you could bring in portable chairs to really kind of small, intimate gatherings and events right here at the stage front if you need to. You don't have to use the entire amphitheater. The other plan that we want to present is an option, is a phase 1 master plan option. Now this option would be what are the most basic and essential elements that we would need to have in order to have still a complete and a very good, workable amphitheater. So again, I'll get into the details in a little bit, but again, we have a stage area up here, seating, and then the entry plaza. Most of the basic essential elements are going to be here in this design also. So as you can see, this plan is essentially the same as the ultimate development plan with a few pieces that were taken out. Most notably in the stage front area, the backstage building area would be removed or eliminated from this plan. And in its place would just be an area, a flat lawn area for staging that could be used for staging, for productions, for different things. The entry plaza, again, would be built around the existing restroom. A lot of the paving would remain the same. The concessions building and the entry gateway structure would not be in the first phase in this plan. Also, the sound booth would not be there. But all the essential pieces as far as circulation and accessibility would be, as the series of steps and landings that would go from the top of the plaza down to the stage front. Accessibility would still occur through this accessible ramp, and accessible seating could happen in this upper area here. The lower area could be accessed through the service drive down to the stage front area, and then a series of seat walls would remain in this area. And the section would essentially be the same as in the ultimate development plan. You can see that you have an upper plaza, all the elevations would remain the same, down to the stage front area with a flat lawn area that would be used for staging. Then a couple things to note as we designed this phase 1 plan. It is designed so that when the time comes to develop it further, it would be easily done without any damage to any of the existing structures. For example, the seat walls would be built here in the middle first, so that afterwards, if the left and right of stage seat walls were to be built, they could come in and build them without any disruption to any of the existing seat walls. Other things that would occur in the phase 1 plan, the site would be graded out completely, as it would be in the ultimate development plan, so they wouldn't have to come back and regrade anything. Any kind of the unseen things, utilities for future power connections or water, sewer, things like that, all the conduits and pipes would be placed in the first phase in preparation for any future development. So again, I think with both the ultimate development plan and the phase 1 plan, you will have an amphitheater that is complete, that will function and meet all of the city's program requirements. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the overall capacity for each of these different plans, beginning with the ultimate development plan. We took a look at seating, and these kind of illustrate the areas, the left of stage, center of stage, right of stage, what their seating capacities could be. We broke it up into wall seating, and then the lawn and terrace areas, the terraced lawn areas in the middle, and then the wheelchair or portable seating areas. We looked at all those numbers, ran these calculations, added it up, and what we found out is in the ultimate development plan, this amphitheater as designed could house a little over 700 people at its maximum full capacity. Now what that does not include is open lawn areas that could also be used for blanket seating or portable chair seating. There's just no way to calculate that in any quantifiable way. So 700, a little over 700 for the maximum capacity for the ultimate development plan. For the phase 1 plan, the number would be a little over 400. And again, that just takes into consideration the seat walls here in the center, the lawn in between, and the wheelchair or portable seating that's done here in the back and up here in the stage front. So, again, this would be a little over 400 people maximum capacity. We'd like to end on our estimate for the probable construction costs for this. Based on our calculations of what we looked at, an estimate of probable construction costs for the ultimate development plan would be at about $1.4 million. Now, this is just for the cost for construction and for building it. We also wanted to include other expenses that would incur, such as planning and design fees, permits, contingencies, things like that, that are included, would be part of the overall package. In doing that, the ultimate development plan with the construction costs plus the other expenses would total in the end about $1.8 million. For the phase 1, the construction costs would be about a little over $500,000. With all of the other expenses and fees, the estimate for the phase 1 development plan will be about $700,000. So again, this was, for us, it was good, this process of going through, meeting with the city staff, gathering input from them, meeting with community members, and being able to use those comments to help us develop this site as we analyze and look at it, came up with these different design options. We appreciate the time that you took to listen to this presentation today, and we would open it up for any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Might say that before we do that we're going to put this presentation on our website under Parks Board, so that people who would like to go through and review it in more detail can do so. I would encourage you, if you've got comments that you want to make and you're writing them down here tonight, feel free to provide them to these gentlemen, but I'm assuming you'll accept them. If we were to collect them or the residents wanted to send them in to you, they could do that as well.
Mayor, we just ask that any comments go to Todd so that he can kind of gather them all and he'll forward them to us.
Okay.
That was probably the best way to do it.
Very good. Alderman Statter?
I just had a quick question. You talked about the overall cost for phase 1 being about $700,000 and the overall cost for the ultimate plan being about $1.8 million. I'm wondering, though, if the city were to do a phase 1 project first and then later on decide to add on, are we looking at incremental costs above that $1.1 million difference because you're doing this at 2 different times?
We structured our cost estimate to account for phase 1 development. And then upon that, we built the ultimate development after that. So I would anticipate the most that you would spend, irrespective of inflation, would be the $1.8 million for the entire development.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions from the board? Alderman Waller.
Yeah, thank you. A couple questions. In regards to the seating capacity, again, you indicated 400 people, and then you indicated 700. If you could clarify that for me again.
Okay. Scott, would you go to the ultimate development plan? The ultimate development plan has approximately 700 seating capacity. Now that's if everybody cooperates and sits really rigid. It's going to be really hard to enforce that number, but it's a theoretical number based on a calculation of length of seat walls and area, square footage of the lawn area. So that ultimate development plan, you can get you can get 700 people to sit in there.
Now, when we go to phase one, we're gonna take the two wings off, the center left and stage left and stage right. Those seat walls go away, and it's just the center of the amphitheater that provides seating for 400 people. So it drops from 700 capacity to 400 capacity from the ultimate development to phase one.
Okay. If I can just clarify again, what you see on the screen there, that's phase one, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. That's 400 individuals capacity, the cost of $700,000, is that correct? Again, show me the ultimate plan was 1.8 million, what that looks like. So that's 1.8 million, that seats around 700 capacity. From the discussion points that you had with the residents, was there a feel from the residents, from your presentations, that there would be at least 700 people coming to these events, or 400? I'm just trying to get a feel from you what the residents thought during your earlier presentation, how much you thought.
If there was one concern that was expressed, not by many, but it was a concern that was expressed, was the amount of people that would be there at any one time. And I think 700, we didn't have numbers when we did the first meeting because we didn't know how many people the design would accommodate. But there was a concern that the folks recognize that there is limited parking in White Cliff Park. And if you had a swim meet, for example, on the night of you couldn't have a swim meet and a performance on the same night. So there's going to have to be certainly a serious attempt to schedule the activities of the amphitheater versus other activities within the park. But folks were concerned that there were some folks that were concerned with the amount of people coming to the amphitheater would conflict with other activities on site, which basically brought to the conclusion it's going to have to be carefully managed so that you don't have swim meets on performance sites.
Okay. Well, that was going to lead to my other question about the parking component of it. I know this plan does not affect the current parking, but you're right, the concerns would be whether there would be sufficient parking to accommodate not only the amphitheater, but for other areas, which is our parks, for that matter, this LIM as well as the community center.
I think based on the experience of the community theater activities that happens currently in White Cliff Park, that as long as it's the schedules are managed within the park site, there's enough parking to accommodate a reasonable attendance at the amphitheater. Then the question is, what is reasonable? It's going to be someplace in between 400 and 700 at the ultimate development. 700 is going to be probably a number that the city is not going to achieve because it's too many people in White Cliff Park. But you're not going to know that exact number until you go through a series of events to see what kind of a draw it has. It's going to create its own draw. It's going to create its own popularity. It has to be managed so that you don't end up with 700 people showing up at one night for an event.
Could you flip to see phase one again, see what that looks like? Phase one, so the top portion, so the concession stand, is that still stay the same? Or is that slightly small?
The top area only containing phase one, we build around the existing restroom facility.
Okay.
And we leave space for the entrance portico and the concession stand. That's what those areas to the north.
Okay.
So again, the idea of doing the ultimate development plan in phase one is to make sure that we efficiently use all the land that's available and that we don't build something in phase one that's not going to fit into the ultimate development plan. So that's why we started with the big plan and we came back to a more modest plan that was yet still functional as a community amphitheater.
And I see again, it looks like there's a service road and access road. In the event of emergency personnel, they can access that.
Yeah, primarily for maintenance vehicles to get to the front of the stage with a small vehicle. Emergency vehicles to get to the front of the stage. And then also, if someone needs assistance getting to the front of the stage, there is that driveway that could be used for that as well.
My next question would be maybe for Todd. I know the big goal is maybe get a park grant for this. Is that presently in the works, or where are we in that process?
Well, once the board decides if they like this plan or not, then in the next few months, we'll come to them to ask for permission, taking the next step and starting to look into funding, including the municipal parks grant.
And typically the funding mechanism for the parks grant is an 80-20 split if awarded to the city, is that correct?
With the Muni Park grant, it's, I think we can get up to about $420,000 for a single grant for a city our size, depending on who else is applying for what. But it helps, the more the city puts in, the better our chances of getting a grant are.
Okay. And with your thought process in regards to the city's funds, that would come from the capital improvement funds, or would that come from the parks and stormwater fund, or that's still up in the air?
That is still up in the air.
All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Alderman Standard, did you have any other questions?
It actually ties into Alderman Waller's question. Did we do a study? What is the current parking capacity at Wycliffe? How many cars do we accommodate?
370.
Thank you. That's it for me, thanks.
Alderman Brady?
Well, for planning purposes down the road, Todd, did we also discuss maybe partnering with the city around us, one of our neighbors maybe?
Yeah, that increases your likelihood of getting a municipal park grant, just partnering with neighboring municipalities. You get more points and you have more opportunity to get a higher amount of funds too. So yeah, that will definitely be something to play into it.
Thank you. I have a question, Todd. How many people do we draw to Whitecliff for the summer playhouse for an event?
Depending on the production and the weather, anywhere from a couple hundred to maximum these days is maybe 400. Previous to being at the current site, when we were at the old stage site, we see 300-400 people a lot more often. And we're estimating that we'll be seeing 300 to 400 probably if we do have a nicer amphitheater to be working out of.
Okay. And likewise, you hold movies up there for families on weekends throughout the summer. What type of draw do you get from that?
The movies currently we do in the pool, and we range anywhere from 50 to 200 people for those typically.
So it kind of sounds to me like your major event is the Playhouse. And if that's going to draw upwards of 400 people, the basic plan would suit that particular need at this time.
Yeah, it currently looks like phase 1 would meet the current needs.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board? Alderman maybe?
Just a brief follow-up to some of Alderman Breeding's questions. On, if hypothetically Sunset Hills or someone were to partner with the city of Crestwood, how much higher would that maximum grant go?
Honestly, I don't know. At this point, the grant jumped up quite a bit this last year with the new tax from the Arch project being included. And the organization that handles the grants might change the way they're doing things in the future, where you can do a multi-year grant to get a larger amount. There are a lot of things that the various municipal professionals are discussing with them as ways to increase the funding for bigger events. Just having had the Spellman project get a grant, that will take a little bit out of what we could get maximum next time around. But it's kind of a I don't have a definite number I can give you as to what kind of change that would make. But thank you.
Alderman Moore?
Yeah, just one last question, either Dan or Scott. Regardless of the phase, whether phase one or the ultimate plan, the bigger project, have you looked into as to what the annual maintenance cost would be for phase one that the city would have to maintain that?
We have not. We have not run any numbers on the labor and the equipment to take care of the amphitheater.
Okay.
I will say that maintenance and upkeep of the amphitheater was one of the items that received a lot of green dots, a lot of interest from the folks. So they recognize the fact that if you're going to build something, you're going to have to maintain it. So, but we have not run any numbers on that.
Okay. I was going to say, I may not have the numbers available, but again, I think it is good for talking points that we would know upfront what anticipated year cost might be. That makes sense.
We could definitely get that number for you, an estimate of what it would be before we proceed.
Thank you.
All right. I see no other lights from the board. Are there any comments from this side of the audience? I see no hands. Anyone on this side of the audience here to comment? I see no hands here. As I said, this will be on the, we're going to put this on the website, so once you've had an opportunity to review it, if you do have comments at that time, I would suggest, as the gentleman said here, please forward them to Todd Stover at our Parks Department, and be happy to include those in his comments to the planning commission. Sir, thank you so much for your presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, next item of business is public comment. Because of time constraints, you may be asked to limit the time of your comments. If you could keep them at 3 minutes, it'd be appreciated. We will take questions on anything that is not on the agenda, and we will give you the opportunity when we reach an agenda item to make comments on that. Sir, on this side, would you like to address that? Mr. Titchell?
Thank you, Mike Touchless, 1939 Guttersea Cross. That is not an address, City of Crestwood. Which is why I'm not sitting up on the dais tonight in my chair that I usually take over on the right. And for especially those of you that come here almost every week, I feel as though I owe you an explanation for this. And that being, back in the fall of last year, my wife and I decided that after living in a 2-story house where all the bedrooms are upstairs and my office was upstairs, that we wanted to go down to a 1-level home. So again, after 19 years ago now living in Crestwood, we put our house in the market with the hopeful intention, of course, of finding another home. First, obviously the Lindbergh School District, because my son is a 7th grade in the district. But if we go at all possible in the city of Crestwood, even in Ward 4, there's plenty of those types of homes available in Crestwood and in Ward 4. However, as we quickly found out, it is much easier to sell a home currently in Crestwood, in the Lindbergh School District, than it is to purchase one. So our home sold in no time, really, but then we were under a gun to find another home. And I can say, from my own personal experience with this, that we do indeed have a very heated, superheated housing market in our area right now, where folks can look for a home and good luck, because there's going to be multiple offers. And I can personally attest to this, in excess of $6,000, even $10,000 over the list price. Now, having said that, and that really put us through quite a strain here trying to relocate, we've had to temporarily relocate outside of Crestwood, with the hope that, again, we'll be able to get back into the community at some time in the future. So I felt as though I owed that explanation to the public, to my constituents in particular, in Crestwood, who I've served for the past just over 2 years now. And again, I mean, this is a testament, really, to the strength of a Lindbergh school district and keeping this community vital and refreshed. I can tell you that the people that I met walking through these homes during show, and there were dozens and dozens of them, were mostly young families with young children, or families our age, more middle age, with older children, with the intention of moving here because of the Lindbergh School District. Okay, you can read that on their on the for sale information for homes. It's located in the #1 Lindbergh School District. So that didn't work out too well in our favor looking for a home. So again, I felt as though I owed you that. We closed on our home late Friday, and so Monday was in touch with the city, and I had to let them know about our change of residence. As the crow flies, I'm only about a half mile outside of Crestwood in Ward 4. But given that, obviously I don't believe I can serve my constituents in Ward 4 living outside that ward. Some have encouraged me to do so. And I said no, because I don't believe it's right. That's something that requires citizenship within the community. So for now, I'm taking leave of the board. I hope one day, though, to be able to move back into the community, perhaps, and continue to participate in some ways. But I wanted to just inform again, because I think most of the people on the dais here know what I've been going through, and I've been looking for a home, but many of you haven't. So I wanted to inform you of that. And finally, too, I wanted to briefly address the board because it's been an honor serving with the members of this board, those in the dais for the past just over, as I said, 2 years. But even more so, it's been an honor serving my constituents. And, I don't want to hold up time here because I know we've got a lot of business. But I have to say that I hope in stepping down after this time that I've been able to accomplish at least several things. And that is to encourage greater transparency in the city and on the part of this board, that I've been able to hopefully as well encourage greater fiscal accountability, but especially and perhaps most dear to me is to encourage citizen participation in your government at the grassroots level. That means citizens coming here like you guys have tonight for I know specific reasons. But I would encourage you, as Mr. Deutschman always does, yes, I'm referring to you, to come back and be part of this process, be part of the governing of your city. One last quick note, and this is our city attorney. I know we had a conversation about the vacancy issue. I noticed, and this may be a matter for the Charter Commission's review, but if you look at the charter under the section of vacancies on the board, and where it states that a member may be considered vacated if he or she, no longer fits the qualifications of being a board member, which is stated earlier in the charter. Okay, that doesn't mean you file. Because it appears as though I still meet those qualifications. Now, I don't intend to push anything here. I don't intend to serve when I'm not living in the city. But I would make a note of that because I think it's an important matter and that needs to be addressed. And again, it may be more appropriately addressed by the Charter Commission would eventually convene. So with that, I want to thank everybody and continue to be involved in your city. Mayor, thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for the comments. I want to give you that opportunity. I know that you've been well respected by your constituents and the board as well. And I can assure you that this is one of the issues that we spoke to the chairman of the Charter Commission about to undertake this discussion during this current session during now. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you and your family. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, that was a tough one. Anyone else on the side care to speak? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
I got news for that man. I won't say what ward it's going to be in, but I know the house is just sold because the man who's taking care of his aunt dumped it for $112,000. You could hope that man didn't see them talk to the old people who have there's another house in a different ward that could be available. I'd like to see Mr. Fisher get back. On this board, he did a good job. Finally, real quick, he spoke a long time. I want to thank Mr. Wallach and 3 new members who jumped into that Aldermen pit now. We're coming to a time in the city of Crestwood where it's going to take some long, hard thought to get this city back on its feet again. I just want you to remember what I told you the last 2 weeks. 4 words. Cooperation is not capitulation. I didn't invent that phrase. I read that in a national magazine. But I firmly believe in it. I want you to remember that. Cooperation is not capitulation. Work together and the job will get done. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on this side? Yes, ma'am. Would you please state your name?
Sure.
Yes.
I'm Jody Neese, the principal at Crestwood Elementary School. Good evening, Board of Aldermen. I know and have met many of you who have come and visited and enjoyed the events we have at Crestwood. I'm just here tonight to talk with you about our great community school. We enjoy a great relationship with the city of Crestwood. We get to see police officers every day and get to visit the police department. They come to visit our school and are there within our community, and our students recognize and are part of the police officers and department in their discussions every single day. It's a great presence here in our school. We also visit the firehouse every year and have the firefighters visit the kindergarten students at Crestwood. This year we participated in decorating the lobby at City Hall during the holidays and have hosted Mayor Roby for tours, and he was there to spotlight our cultural day. We've already committed to help decorate during the holidays next year, and the kids love supporting their hometown of Crestwood. All of these things happen because Crestwood School can function at the current student enrollment of 478 students. We are nearing the capacity of 500 students, which should happen next year with natural enrollment factors. As Mr. Chillis, is that correct? The Alderman who just spoke? Yes. He stated that he had many offers on his home. I've given 5 tours to new families in the last 2 days. So even with natural enrollment, we are growing rapidly. We always welcome new students to our school. However, a large influx of students, along with no money to fund the growth, will cause issues in our current academic and social performance. You may have heard of Dressel Elementary, which is a current Limber project, which is going to be a new elementary school built in 2017. The growth for our district among 3 other elementary schools will already fill that entire new elementary. So any growth at Crestwood isn't really looking like students will be going toward Dressel at that time. Of course, boundaries still have yet to be drawn, but we are growing so rapidly in our entire district that elementary is full almost at this time. We are currently using every space at Crestwood, with multiple staff members sharing locations. We are going to be using closets for offices. And our gym and cafeteria are a shared space. We do not have a separate gym. So we are doing everything that we can to do what's best for our kids. We just ask that you really think about how to keep your local elementary school as a top performer in the state of Missouri and do what is best for the children of this community. While we thoroughly support growth and new business partnerships for Crestwood and Lindbergh, we need to think about the future of our children and the funds that are required to offer a high-quality education. Please do what is best for our kids. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Please state your name and address for the record.
Okay, hi, I'm Reese Watt. I'm at 9101 Cherry Brook Lane. I talked once before, just encouraging the possibility of having, a high-tech, fun place there at Crestwood Mall. And I'm going to just throw out another idea. I'm going to step over the mat real quick, because I think it would, this part right here, what I hear all the time is, it slopes down and it's not good for retail. What if we took this amphitheater that we just heard about, that was really cool, and put it in a place that's already kind of really set up to be an amphitheater already? Just a thought, to put the amphitheater there in the Crestwood Plaza, if you could work that out with the developer, you'd have those people going to White Cliff to see a show are probably not going to spend money. If they go there and they park and they eat some dinner and then they go to see a show, there's the amphitheater right there. I think that could be really cool. That would make, I think, would make the retail shops that were there more attractive. And so, maybe you wouldn't have to put an apartment building in that area either, which would please some other people in this district as well. So I just had the thought, hearing about the amphitheater and knowing the layout of that particular place, that maybe that would work. So I wanted to throw that out.
Thank you. Anyone else on this side here speak? Yes, young lady. Well, don't be bashful. Hopefully you're a future resident, a future homeowner in Crestwood. There you go. And would you give your name and your address, please?
My name is Kate Davidson, and I live at 9055 Rock Road in Sunset Hills. I go to Crestwood Elementary School, and I am in 2nd grade. I like my school and my teachers, but if there were more kids at my school, it will be too full. Please do not give tax money to build apartments, because there will be too many kids and no money for them.
Thank you. Very good. Anyone else on this side here to speak? Yes, sir. I thought he jumped the gun on you.
Sorry.
My comments are going to be.
Do we have your name and
Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff Schilling, I forgot. Jeff Schilling, 1228 My comments are on the mall project, but they're not specific to the TIF that you are going to take later. My suggestion for the city is to reevaluate the strategy that we have with this project. I think that the strategy that we've engaged so far isn't working. We see that from the very outspoken response from Dr. Simpson, and now we also see it with the response from the Lindbergh School Board. And so what we've done is we've taken a project that was really isolated to the city of Crestwood. We've really expanded it now to, as we just heard, Sunset Hills. We're really impacting, now we've pulled in the entire school district. We're going to pull in other taxing districts as well. My suggestion would be to probably reevaluate the way that we've engaged the city, or rather the city has engaged with the school district. I know that somebody told me that you've had a meeting recently with Dr. Simpson, and that's positive, that's great. hindsight's 20/20. We don't know for sure if other meetings could have eliminated, if not mitigated, the response that we saw from the school district and now the school board. My suggestion would be to really, I think we need to have the developer come and really speak on behalf of themselves. We hear that, I heard a year and a half ago that, the developers, they hire experts, they make recommendations. They're in the business of developing property, and those are the ones that we should listen to. Now we're hearing that this is a fluid project, the decisions haven't been made, and it's really, frankly, now what we're hearing, it's unclear what that final project is going to look like. But I haven't heard it from the developer. I've heard it from Mayor Roby that it's a fluid effort, that we don't know what it's going to look like. It's like building a house, you make changes, but we also asked for changes from the previous developer, and that developer told us they were not going to make any changes. So I don't take a lot of stock in the fact that the mayor says it's going to change. I think it's better that we would hear it from the actual developer themselves. Because as far as we know, they hired their experts. They're the experts in developing projects. This is what they've recommended as being best for the project. They may be set on what it is that they plan on doing with this property. And so I would suggest that the city not speak on behalf of the developer and allow them to tell us whether or not this really is a fluid project or not. Because if it is a fluid project, that even makes it more difficult because you're asking this community and the taxing districts to agree to something that they don't know what that final product is going to look like. And we're talking about a significant amount of money. And people complain about the facts, people jump into conclusions, but as of right now, people are commenting on the facts as they've been presented by the city and really what's been presented by the developer. So it's the only thing that we can work with. So if we're hearing that things are going to be different, then we should know what those things are so that the community can, and the school district and the taxing district can make a more informed decision in terms of what, if anything, we're going to do with this project. Good luck.
Thank you. Anyone else on this side? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Vicki England. My address is 9636 Guerin Drive, 63123. I am the treasurer of the Limburg School Board, and I wanted to read the proclamation that we passed in opposition to a TIF last week. And I wanted to be very clear that as a school district and as a school board, we are not against tax increment financing. We are one of the most ardent supporters of this community and all the communities that we serve. We just have a problem with the way that it has residential as part of that TIF. So I want to read this language to you and then have a couple personal comments, then I'd be happy to answer any questions. The resolution opposing TIF for residential development. Whereas Limburg Schools Board of Education believes that community support is essential in creating successful educational environments. And whereas we want the Crestwood Mall property to thrive, but not at the expense of more than 6,300 Limburg students and residents from 9 different communities. And whereas the Urban Streets proposal for the mall property includes 225 apartments, which would be partially funded by $28 million in tax incentives, bringing additional students into an already overcrowded district without any additional funding. And whereas we also have concerns that residential property developed with tax incentives produces no jobs, no sales tax, and no revenue for the city and the school district. And whereas we encourage the city of Crestwood to approve a development that does not include residential property that is developed using tax incentives. And whereas we intend to work closely with the Crestwood Mayor and Board of Aldermen to share these concerns and reach an agreement that is good not only for the city of Crestwood, but also for Limburg schools, students, and taxpayers. Now therefore be it resolved, Limburg Schools Board of Education formally expresses its opposition to any development on the Crestwood Mall property that would include tax incentives for residential property this 5th day of May, 2015, and that was signed by Kathy Tenstra, Limburg Schools President Board of Education. As it states in this resolution that we passed last week, we want Crestwood to thrive. We want all of the communities in which we have the Limburg School District to thrive. The problem we have is as a school district that's technically considered hold harmless by the state of Missouri, we receive 93% of our school funds from local tax revenue. If we don't have that tax revenue, it becomes very difficult for us to educate children. One of the strengths of the Lindbergh School District has been our fiscal responsibility. And it is definitely our responsibility to educate every child in our district. However, it becomes very difficult to do so when we don't have the money behind it to educate our children. I'm very glad I did not have to go exactly directly after one of our students because I'm not sure I could follow her directly. We're very proud of our students, and we're very proud of the fact that they're engaged and active in the Crestwood community. On a personal note, I would also add that some of the information that I've read has to do with the developer Urban Streets themselves. It's come to my attention that perhaps they don't have as much commercial experience in development as they could. I have a commercial real estate background, and I know that as a developer, whether they have that commercial experience or not, perhaps it would be in their best interest to form a coalition or work with another company that has more experience doing commercial development, because the commercial development piece of this is really what's going to make Crestwood thrive, and if there is a TIF that's approved, make that TIF be paid back, as we've had in other parts of our community that have had successful TIFs. I mean, I believe that TIF is a very powerful economic development tool when used correctly. When used incorrectly, it can be devastating to the community and in addition devastating to the school district. It is very difficult to have that #1 status in the state every year for the last 5 years. It will be much more difficult to maintain that status if we don't have the money we need to educate our children. So I thank you for your patience, and I tried to read it as fast as I could.
That was great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right.
Can the city clerk please get either a copy or that sent over to our office, the resolution?
Did you do that? Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Please state your
Just to
name.
confirm, are you accepting comments right now on the resolution or waiting?
No, I'd like you to hold that if you would until that time. Is that all right? Thank you. Anyone else on this side? Yes, sir.
My name is the name. So I'm one of the park board members, and 3 weeks ago we have the presentation for the one piece of together. We did a great job at training and to present the presentation, and I think it's very interesting plan. This is my understanding also it's going to be some kind of vision, some kind of draft, and the residents are welcome to attend the park board meeting. The next one will be on May 19th at 7 Community Center. So, because most of the time there is nobody, and it would be great to have people coming and giving us comments. We are very open to that. Also, one thing I wanted to say is that I wanted to say thank you to the host of much about the mall. I think for say many things, but. I've been a park board member for almost a year, and I had the chance to meet and work with great people. And I would like to thank a few people that are very committed and they are doing a great job for the city. So those people are Jim, Todd, Kathy, Phil and Tara for their dedication, commitment, and hard work. I would like also to mention how I personally believe that their work environment and as well the community center need a real attention from this board. And the residents also. The park board recently had a tour of the community center, and a lot needs to be done. And I went to Fenton, Clinton, and Maplewood communities to visit the community center. And if we want Crestwood to be a vibrant place to live and appeal to more young families, the community center cannot wait another decade. So as you are going, later on, consider the amphitheater, and I love the idea. I think it would be great to bring the community together. I hope you will consider sooner than later ways to improve it or to rebuild it.
Thank you. Anyone else on this side? Yes, sir. Sir, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Harold Wall. I reside at 1316 Tahiti Drive, and I'm here to represent the St. Louis Astronomical Society. I'd like to invite the board, members of the audience, and the citizens of Crestwood to join us for our beginning of our 4th year of doing telescope and astronomy programs for Crestwood City Parks and Recreation. During our first 3 years doing this program, we have serviced over 400 citizens in the city of Crestwood with our program. Over the course of the last year, we sponsored 97 events with roughly 5,000 attendees. One of our major projects this past year has been we have deployed 50 telescopes into the library systems within St. Louis County, Jefferson County, St. Charles County, Belleville, and Aldermen and the city of St. Louis. The only requirement for this program is that individuals be over the age of 18 and have a valid library card. Our next event is scheduled for the 23rd of May, commencing at 7:30, running until whenever the crowd leaves. You were at our last event last year.
Will this be at Crestwood Park this year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. For those that have not attended, it's quite a unique event. They've got a number of telescopes set up, some built by members of their club and group. And the objects, if the sky is clear, that you get to see are quite amazing.
Well, this year we should have Moon, first quarter phase, Saturn, Jupiter, Venus, and the Western Horizon.
It's a great educational tool for the youngsters of young people at Crestwood too.
And the price is right.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for that. Anyone else on this side care to speak? Okay, I see no hands. All right, that will conclude public comment. Next item on the agenda is zoning board report. See none. Do we have a zoning board report? See, Homestead? Did you have something?
Oh, I was just going to make mention of Mr. Feldman. Thank you guys so much for putting this on. We've had a great time with it every year. I noticed that we have some scouts as well as second graders in the audience. You guys should definitely go to this event. Some of the scopes are enormous and they've built them by hand, but they have step stools so you can get all the way up to them and see everything. My boys enjoy it every year, and they will even help you work on merit badge requirements.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Next item is the city administrator's report and associated bills. Mr. Sen?
Thank you, Your Honor. The first item on the agenda for tonight is an ordinance approving the agreement with MB West Contracting Company for the mill and asphalt overlay project. This will be the annual project within the city of Crestwood to mill and overlay numerous streets within the city. The amount bid by MB West was just under $479,000, and that requesting approval by the board to approve this contract and conduct a mill and overlay within the city.
Okay. Any comments from the board? Alderman Anderson?
Yes, I have reviewed the ordinance and had a question about section 2, which relates to, as worded now, contingencies in the agreement. And I was wondering if we could have some sort of, get some sort of understanding as to what that relates to.
For the purpose of this ordinance, the contingencies are for additional streets because the bid is lower than we anticipated. Typically, we have 2 years of asphalt mill and overlay and 1 year of slab replacement, but the backlog of slab replacement has gotten so great that we're going to have 2 years after this year. So we would like to be able to look at the condition of some of our borderline streets and include those into the process this year.
Is that part of the work that was bid on?
No, that would be additional work.
Would that be work that would ordinarily be bid on, aside from what's transpired to date?
Yes, that's normally bid on, but we just didn't think that we had enough monies to put them in the bid for this year.
So when would you know whether you would be in a position to consider additional work in this process?
after we get started in the mill and overlay process, we'll get a tighter estimate on what the final cost is going to be and work with the contractor to see what additional streets can be done.
So, yeah, I had drafted some language which would affect Section 2, and I had sent that to the members of the board and to the city attorney. I think there might be some question about that. My concern was the phrase contingencies, which was, to me, at least before your comments, was open and maybe a little bit ambiguous. I had thought maybe that we could tie it down to work that was not described in the Exhibit A, which is the definition of the work, the itemized bid form and itemized work statement. So I would propose that we consider some sort of amendment to Section 2, because what we're talking about, there's an additional $61,000 for work that hasn't been bid at this point.
Would the city attorney care to address that?
Sure. I think the way that the ordinance and the contract is designed is that the contract, in the ordinance you're approving the agreement, and then you're approving, and in Section 2 you're approving an additional $61,000 for changes that would be authorized pursuant to the terms of the agreement. So the agreement itself sets forth how and when change orders or contingencies can be sought in the process for doing so. And I'm not sure, Alderman Anderson, if you want to limit the amount or limit how the conditions under which that can be done, that's kind of a question for Mr. Gillum as to whether that's going to work for the project. So I guess I need a little more information on whether, are we talking about limiting the amount that's authorized for the contingencies, or just limiting how they're done?
Well, my concern is there's been certain work that's been bid.
Right.
And what's stated in the ordinance now is contingencies. And so I would like that to have some tie back to the definition of work. So in other words, that if we had it, say, contingencies related to the agreement for work not described in Exhibit A, so that we knew what exactly it was going to be spent for. In other words, we've got a project here that's been bid for $478,000. If it's going to be related to the work that's already bid, we shouldn't be spending more money. But if it's for additional work beyond what's already been considered and proposed and bid on, then I could see an additional expenditure of funds. So I was just trying to tie it back to, so we've got some sort of definitional framework that if what's going to be done is work that hasn't already been bid on, okay, that's fine. But if it's something that's part of this contract already, I don't think we should necessarily be. It's almost like we're holding on a carrot, saying here's another $61,000, and to do the job.
Right.
So I mean, I'm sure the bid was made in good faith, but based on the work that was here, if there's going to be additional work, then yeah, the city should consider additional payment. So that's all I was getting to. I guess the problem I had was with the word in the event of contingencies that appeared to me to be a little open and ambiguous. So.
Is that all? Yeah. Okay. Alderman Watt?
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to add, I think whether or not, I mean, I don't have a problem per se with that. My only problem would be if somehow the ordinance ends up being more limiting than the process that's described in the agreement on how to do the changes in the work. And if that's what the board wants to do, that's fine. I just think it's Mr. Gilliam who has to be clear on it's the contract that sets up the process for changes in works, and tell me if I'm wrong, it can be additional work, but it can also be additional costs that may occur for the current streets for some unforeseen work or situation that can occur. So I guess my concern would be if we change it to use that language, then are we eliminating the possibility that there's going to be unforeseen cost associated with the work that's the actual streets that he's already got listed?
Well, I understand what you're saying. The only thing is, if it would be a necessary item to do the project and it hadn't been taken into account, that would be an obvious thing to consider under a change order. But here, I think what we're talking about is additional work, and we're budgeting. In other words, we've given a very specific figure here, $61,341.50. So, I mean, that's almost anticipating then that something else is going to be done of a very specific nature. And so, I would either say we would take out section 2 completely if it's covered by the agreement on change orders and let the change order come in, or indicate that it's by this that it's for work that hasn't already been part of the contract. You know, it's new work.
The problem with taking that completely is that then, and this is up to the board on whether you want to do it, but then he doesn't have any money allocated by the board for the change order process. So if a change order comes in where he does have an additional cost, whether it's an additional cost for the work or more streets, he has no money allocated for that, which is, and add to, if you want to explain the process better, you're more than welcome to.
General Counsel, you have alluded to part of the situation. Part of this has been on a per ton basis, and there may be some additional shaping of the street, trying to reestablish crowns, or we may get involved in situations where the asphalt needs to be replaced deeper than we anticipated. So there's the opportunity for additional cost in the work that has already been bid, and there's also the opportunity to add additional streets that we feel will need repair work done before we're able to bid it again in 3 more years.
I guess my only concern is it's a unilateral expansion of what the project was normally bid for without a bid, and so I don't know if everyone understood that in making their bid that there may be actually another $61,000 here available. So it just seems to me that we need some tightening of the language there. That's just my opinion.
If I could ask a question, Mr. Gilman, didn't we have recently in Spelman Drive, we had a contingency in that project, and those dollars were needed to basically remove rock, which had not been identified through the board. Is that correct?
That's correct. We had approximately $27,000 in additional cost for the removal of that rock.
And I think that these dollars that we're talking about, the $61,000, is the balance of the $540, if I'm not mistaken, that the budget allocated for this work for this year.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Just want to clarify that. Sure. Alderman Watt.
Yeah, thank you. again, Anderson, I recognize where you're going with this, but as Mayor Roby alluded to, again, we budgeted $540,000 for the project. We came in a little bit lower than that, which is roughly $478,658. So again, there's a balance of roughly $61,000. I guess my question to the finance officer tonight, where are we in regards to the capital improvement revenue? Are we projection to be where we feel we will be at the end of the day, or in the year for that matter? Again, I'm comfortable with the board looking to do additional streets if we have enough funds to do it, as long as our budget is coming in where we anticipate it to be.
To your point, sir, as we mentioned earlier, pretty early in the year to try to be predicting where sales tax will fall. Sales tax obviously is the key revenue component within the capital improvement fund, except for the grant work, which is funded elsewhere. I would tell you that our observation in the first 5 months of sales tax receipts is that they are tracking roughly slightly above last year, not dramatically above, and slightly on track with budget. So I don't see a deviation plus or minus at this point enough to help answer your question whether there's additional revenues or insufficient revenues.
Well, no, thank you for that. Again, if we were in a position where the revenues of these $50,000 less, I would say, I would agree with you. But at this point, since the revenue's been to date, 5 months, is within the budget that we've got budgeted for, I'm comfortable with the language, because it does allow for additional streets if necessary. I just trust that, again, Mr. Gillum, that the unit cost for these additional streets will probably be compatible for what we've got a current bid for from the MD West, I guess.
We would expect the unit price to stay the same.
Right. Thank you.
Alderman Anderson?
I understand what Alderman Wallach is saying, and that makes a lot of sense. The only thing is, I think what you've done then is basically expanded the project without a bid for that additional work. In other words, the work that's described is limited to certain streets. That's what everyone bid on, and that's what they anticipated the work to be. It seems like what you're doing here is the winning bidder is somehow gets a possible bonus of getting some additional work that they have never bid on and no one else has ever bid on. So it just seems to me that if that work is really contemplated, maybe we should put that out to bid at this point, so that maybe we can achieve some savings or something that way. Because if you're building that into the process, but our agreement is only limited to certain streets, that's what basically was bid on. So I think we're changing what was bid on through the back door through this ordinance. That I don't know that that's correct.
Anything further? No. Alderman Beatty?
I had a chance to read over all the documents and the bids, and I also see where Alderman Anderson is coming from, but I think I'm comfortable with the language in Article 7 as compared to the ordinance. I think it adequately covers the city. I guess historically, I'm thinking back to last year, and perhaps the Public Works Director could help me out. Under this mill and overlay project last year, was Pardee Road added to the scope after, where it's from the bridge up to Eddy and Park, because that was deemed to be the road, the next most damaged road that would have been included, but the city was worried about going over the bid amount. When the bids came in lower, that road was added. Is that a correct recollection?
I don't recall the exact streets that were added, but additional streets were added last year.
Okay. Is this
Pardee Road wasn't on that.
Okay, and I mean, I'm just familiar with that one because I drive it a lot, but Is this something the city, I guess historically does most years, try to, when the mill and overlay bids come up, if there's some room in the budget, add a street or two that would have been next up for repair?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And I just run the numbers, it looks like the amount of the contingencies that would be potentially included would be 11% of the 540,000. I think anytime there's a construction project involved, a 10% contingency is probably a good rule of thumb, and so I don't think those percentages are necessarily out of line. I will say I read over all 4 bids, and it looks like the majority of the bid is based off of unit cost and unit prices. And this bidder did have the lowest unit price. And so I guess it stands to reason that if an extra street or 2 or 3 were added, that you're getting the best price of those 4. And it looks like the Article 7, Section 3 provides that any extra work that the city authorizes is going to be done at the unit prices previously specified. So I'm comfortable with the documents as they're laid out. I guess I do appreciate some of Alderman Anderson's concerns. I guess we could probably be a little more explicit when the bid goes out. I don't have the bid in front of me, so perhaps it is in there. Whether or not there may be the potential to add a small number of extra streets, but as long as that's done in the future, I think the documents in front of us are fine, and I would just encourage Public Works to be judicious about the change orders and try to bring it in as low as possible.
Anything else, maybe?
I don't think so.
Alderman Reed?
Alderman maybe.
Alderman Waller?
Yeah, just one final question. Again, this is for a mill and overlay. In regards to any curb and gutter work, that's done in-house, it's necessary for some of those streets, is that right?
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you.
Alderman Anderson?
Yeah, I just wanted to make clear that I have no objection to NB West as a company or no question with regard to the amount of their bid. And as a low bidder would be should be entitled to receive the contract. I just think we're mixing apples and oranges here. We're expanding a project that was never bid on. And, I'm not sure if I can go along with that, but in terms of the NB West being awarded the contract for $478,000, I think that would be okay.
Board need additional time to consider this issue? Or are they willing to make any changes or amendments to this ordinance? Alderman Beatty?
I would move that we call the question on the ordinance as drafted.
Second.
Okay, have a motion, second to call. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay. Any questions from the citizens here on this issue? On this side? See no hands. Okay, we have a ordinance approving the agreement with NB West Contracting Company for the mill and asphalt overlay project and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute the same on behalf of the city. May I have a motion for a first reading?
Second.
I have a motion, Alderman Boston, a second from Alderman Beatty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Bill number, please.
1501.
Okay. Reading, if you do the first reading, please.
Bill number 1501, introduced by Alderman Breeding, an ordinance approving the agreement with NB West Contracting Company for the mill and asphalt overlay project and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute the same on behalf of the city.
Have a roll call, please.
Alderman Charbonneau.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson?
No.
Alderman Wallach?
Yes.
Alderman Maybe?
Yes.
Alderman Statter? Yes. Alderman Boston?
Yes.
Alderman Reed?
Yes.
6 ayes, motion passes.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second for a second reading.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Maybe and a second by Alderman Brady. Or, I'm sorry, Alderman Wallach. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay. Alderman Wallach, would you do the honors, please?
Bill number 15-01, introduced by Alderman Brady. An ordinance approving the agreement with NB West Contracting Company for the mill and asphalt overlay project, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute the same on behalf of the city.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Boston?
Yes.
Alderman Charbonneau?
Yes.
Alderman Maybe?
Yes.
Alderman Reading?
Yes.
Alderman Anderson?
No.
Alderman Wallach?
Yes.
Alderman Statter? Yes. 6 ayes again. Motion passes.
The next item on the agenda is a resolution directing the city clerk to provide notices required to convene the Tax Increment Financing Commission of the city of Crestwood, Missouri.
Any comments from the board? Comments from the board? See no Alderman Anderson?
Thank you, Your Honor. At our meeting on April 28th, I expressed some concerns regarding the language of the resolution now before us in the context of the draft resolution for the selection of the developer. With the amendments to that first resolution and a chance to more fully consider the second resolution in light of the special counsel's comments regarding the nature of the development process, I'm now more comfortable with this resolution. First of all, it is a preliminary procedural matter that does not bear on the substance of a plan of development. There is no redevelopment plan at this point and no redevelopment agreement with the developer. And of course, nothing to bring before a commission. But given the city's request for a redevelopment proposal indicating a willingness to move forward with tax increment financing, and the fact that if there is even $1 of tax increment financing for any part of the project, that you're going to need a TIF commission in place, I see no reason at this time, or presently, not to proceed with at least telling the other interested parties, the other tax-paying entities involved, of the probable need of a commission for this redevelopment, and that they be ready when and if a plan is worked out by the city to present to the commission. Certainly, if no plan can be worked out, then it would seem to me it would be just a matter of communication to them that there's no need for anyone to meet. But in order to cover the contingencies at this point, I would see no reason why the resolution shouldn't move forward.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Maybe?
Well spoken by Alderman Anderson. I would second the entirety, I think, of what he said. This is a procedural step. The board here is not voting on any kind of ultimate plan or contract. I would encourage the residents, if they haven't already, to check out the Crestwood website. There's been a tentative schedule of events that have been posted. And really, as you can see, the next 90 to 120 days are filled with extensive negotiations that will likely be taking place between all interested parties. But any substantive work of a TIF commission to be convened is not even scheduled under this optimistic plan to begin until late summer. So this resolution this evening, it complies with some statutory prerequisites as far as providing the notice to the various taxing entities. Obviously, some of them are very engaged right now, including the Lindbergh School Board. I would think most others probably have this on their radar, but to the extent they don't, this provides the notice and allows them to get engaged in the process. The only funds the city will be expending would be a few dollars in postage, perhaps. I have some additional comments, but I'll reserve them for now.
Alderman Sharpman?
Yes, like the previous two, Alderman Anderson, Alderman Maybe made some excellent points. I think this is completely procedural. If you do look at the timeline, and actually with the legislation that was passed at the previous public meeting, the Board of Aldermen, right now the plan is what we're working on, and it has to come to an agreement that would have to be voted on by the Board of Aldermen. We do have public meetings in place. It appears, in mid-June. It's a public forum that we want to talk about the redevelopment project. This will still be before the public. This is completely procedural. We, all as a board, I think, not to speak for everyone, but want to make sure that we get the best deal in place from the developer, not just for our city, but also for the school district. And part of the negotiation process, I think everyone's doing their due diligence to make sure that we get that best deal. This is completely a procedural part of the process. I know I personally want to make sure that we use as little public money and assistance as absolutely possible for any plan, but we could all completely vote down a plan that would go to a TIF commission. A TIF commission may never see the plan because we have to develop not just the plan, but the agreement. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on the board? I see no other lights. This side. Pam, you want to speak? Please state your name and address for the record.
Martha Duchild, 9158 General Grant Lane. First of all, I've heard that all of you have said that this is a procedural step. It's much more than that. What you're doing by moving forward with this step is weakening your negotiating positions. I commend the board for its decision last week to amend the resolution to remove taking the steps forward to convene the TIF commission, and I hope tonight that you keep to that premise. There is no question that the city's fortunes rise and fall with the success of the Lindbergh School District. Despite an empty mall, home sales are among the most robust in the area. Thanks to this alignment of school and city interests, the decision facing the board tonight should be an easy one. The city's only negotiating leverage at this stage is its ability to grant or withhold public finances for redevelopment. Thus far, in exchange for prematurely moving the TIF process forward with tonight's resolution, the developer has offered nothing of substance. He has admitted that his plan has no substance and that he has no commitments and no tenants. Furthermore, he has included in the redevelopment proposal a residential component that would choke off funds for the school district while burdening it with more students. Taking the first procedural step in committing $28 million of public funds in this speculative real estate investment is the equivalent of asking the public to jump in a pool without having any idea whether it contains water. At this point, I would like to make a personal appeal to Alderman Stetter. As a member of many Lindbergh parent groups, you are in a position to show your dedication to the city and the district by voting no on any TIF-related legislation until Urban Street presents the board with a plan that satisfies both the city and the school district. The fact that both of us are here tonight and not at our children's orchestra concert underscores how important this vote is. The last time the district experienced a budget shortfall, the strings program was the first to feel the hit. We lost a teacher. As you are an incoming member of the Lindbergh String Orchestra Development Association, I hope you keep this in mind as you cast your vote tonight. In advising this board to vote no on this resolution, I will offer a quote from Victor Hugo. Caution is the eldest child of wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else on this side care to speak? See no hands. Anyone on this side care to speak? I see no hands. Okay. With that, we have the resolution directing the city clerk to provide notices required to convene the Tax Increment Financing Commission of the city of Crestwood, Missouri. Do I hear a motion for a first reading? We have a motion from Alderman Boston. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Alderman Wallach. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Resolution number, please.
You just passed it, so it's 1506. This is a vote for the resolution.
There's no resolution number on here.
Jerry, give them a number.
1506.
1507,
06.
06. Okay. Yeah, let's take a roll call.
And just to be clear, since this is a resolution, I know the mayor mentioned 2 readings, there's only one vote. It's only one reading.
Right.
Take a roll call.
Can we ask Mr. Grimm some questions?
Certainly. State your name for the record, please.
Mark Grimm with Gilmore and Bell.
One thing I can ask is you comment on what this due child just being on bond council, special counsel.
I think, further comment on what she said, I think Alderman Nagy and Alderman Anderson very clearly stated the purpose of the resolution and the point in the process that we are. It's very preliminary. It's the first step. As the schedule shows, as Alderman Nagy pointed out, the schedule that's on the city's website is this is a very early step in what is going to be at least a 6-month process. The city has not committed anything financially to the developer. We've negotiated many TIF redevelopment agreements. I've negotiated dozens of TIF redevelopment agreements for most of the larger projects around the metropolitan area and other places around the state. And I don't think the city's negotiating position has changed at all by virtue of the passage of this resolution. I think the city, one of the aldermen said that the city benefits most by a strong tax base. The school district benefits most by a strong tax base, and so strengthening them all presumably ultimately would be a win-win for every taxing district.
Thank you very much.
Alderman, Mr. Grimm, Alderman Wallach has a question.
Just a question procedurally. I recognize, again, this is for the Tax Increment Finance Commission, but I've heard from the public as well as news regarding tax abatements. Tax abatements is for properties. Does this address tax abatements, or how does it address, or does it?
Well, I don't know yet. I'd say it's premature to know what financial assistance would be provided. As I indicated at the last meeting, this is a very, very early step in the process. It's impossible, I think, to say what incentives would be offered to the developer and what the form of those incentives might be and what areas of the project those might affect or might not affect. So, as you point out, the incentives take different forms of tax abatement, which is tax increment financing, it's a sales tax. Some might characterize it an add-on sales tax like a TD or CID as an incentive. So there's a lot of different incentive forms that will be developed and discussed as we go through the process.
But passing this tonight doesn't say, for me as a board member, if I pass it, that I'm approving a tax abatements.
The city, this commits the city to nothing regarding incentives for the project. It commits the city's not committing to approve a project or approve a TIF redevelopment plan or approve any incentives or site plan or anything else. I don't think this commits the city to doing anything with respect to the mall, other than notify the other taxing districts that the city at some point may present a redevelopment plan to the TIF Commission.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
I'm really sorry. Can you come back up for one moment? I was trying frantically to press my button, but it wasn't working. And I'm not sure if you can answer this, but a lot of the concerns that I'm hearing raised are that the developer has no tenants that are committed. Would you say it fair, without getting into details, that even if tenants were committed or even strongly interested, that it would be highly unlikely that most developers would make that information public because the clients coming in ask them not to?
That's a correct statement. I think when you've heard of projects where the tenants' names are known up front, such as the Shrewsbury Walmart, that was a Walmart-driven project. St. Anne was a Menards-driven project. And so if the big box retailer is the focus of the project, you may hear the tenant's name early on. Aside from those types of projects, and I use the Boulevard in Richmond Heights as an example, I'm not aware of tenants being named or discussed at such a premature stage.
Thank you very much.
Well, I did have one other question. Is it fair to say that the city administration and the Lindbergh School District will continue a conversation regarding this ongoing? Do you guys have that planned out?
We hope to still continue to talk with the school district as this process moves on.
Thank you.
Okay. City Clerk.
Alderman Walk.
Yes.
Alderman Breed.
Yes.
Alderman Main.
Yes.
Alderman Stack. Yes. Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman Charbonneau.
Yes.
Alderman Boston.
Yes.
Resolution passes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have for this evening, Your Honor.
Time. Next item is perfection of bills. I see none. Next item is introduction of other bills. I see none. Reports from the mayor, board members, and city attorney. Mr. Breed, Alderman Breed. Alderman Watt.
Yeah, short report. Again, we had a Charter Commission meeting on May 13th, just a preliminary meeting to talk about the history. We do have an upcoming meeting coming on May 27th, 7 p.m. The focus of that meeting is going to talk to sections number 1 through 4 of our charter to discuss, so I encourage all residents to come forward. If, again, they can make it, feel free to send me any emails regarding any recommendations that they may have for the Charter Commission to consider.
Thank you. Alderman Stetter.
No report.
Alderman Charbonneau. No report. Okay. Alderman Maybe.
Just very briefly, and dovetailing on Alderman Tishless's comments, I think the Business Journal in the last week and a half or 2 weeks did recognize Crestwood is the #1 sellers market in the area. So I think that's a testament to the community, the city, the school district, and the wonderful citizens that make up the city. There will be an Economic Development Commission meeting coming up in early June. I believe the preliminary agenda for that commission will include finalization of a survey to area businesses. More details will be forthcoming. And my only other comments would be I would just encourage the Lindbergh School Board to maintain their private dialogue with the developer.
Thank you. Alderman Boston.
No report, Your Honor.
Alderman Anderson.
No report.
Okay, thank you. I have none. City Attorney.
No report.
Okay. Thank you. Next item is introduction of future issues. I see none. Alderman Breed.
We've had a few residents over the past year ask about the city of Crestwood increasing the number of chickens allowed to have. I know it sounds funny, but it's true. So on May 20th, the Public Works Board will discuss the number of chickens allowed. And just want this board to keep an open mind and also to research other cities in our county to see what they allow. The research you'll find is that we allow the fewest number of chickens, and look forward to that report at our next meeting. Seriously.
You're going to provide that?
Yeah, after our Public Works meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
No.
Anything else under introduction of future issues? Old business? See the lights? New business? See the lights? Next item is adjournment. Do I have a motion?